I would like to share with all of you the programs on the Australia as well as Portugal, and hopefully one of these programs would suit your needs. Now, first of all, allow me to introduce Global Migration Solution and CCGi. We basically are an established migration company that serve our clients with trust and commitment. We work to achieve, to maintain our service for our clients and our partners. Now, these are the programs that we help the clients with. Other than Australia and Portugal, we help the clients with the United States, New Zealand, UK, Canada, and Malaysia programs as well. Now, I would like to just share with you a little bit more about our company. Our company has been seen as one of the premier migration advisory firms. Over the last 16 years, we have helped more than 12,000 families. And we gain our reputation and the awards through the successful records. Reason why we are able to achieve a high successful rate of up to 99%, because before we take on a client, we do look into the eligibility, we do look into their documents and done up all the due diligence checks before we have them on board as clients. And today, we have our office in Malaysia, in Singapore, in Australia, in Vietnam, and in Hong Kong to help our clients. As a licensed immigration advisor for Australia, this is to make sure that the clients are being advised correctly and properly. And it is very important for you to get an advice directly from people like me, because this is to make sure that you are being advised correctly and properly. And you can verify and check about our legislation, whether it is up to the current or not, through the website here. So you go to the MARA, which stands for Migration Agents Registration Authority, key in our number, our name, and that's when you will see our license, whether it is up to current or not. Now, just a quick start of these two programs. I would like to help you guys with some basic understanding about the differences between the two programs. Let's first of all look at the investment amount between Australia and Portugal. The investment programs and the business programs for Australia starts from 200,000 Aussie dollar, Australian dollar, and goes all the way up to 5 million Aussie dollar. As for Portugal programs, the investment starts from 280,000 euro and it goes all the way up to the 500,000 euro. Okay, now with this amount of the money, what can you invest? For Australia, you can use this to set up the business, or you can use this to invest into the government bond, or you can use this to invest into the compliant investment, which is also, in other words, this compliant investment consists of various of the private managed funds. Now, for Portugal, your money can be invested into purchasing a property, which does not allow under Australia programs. You could also invest your money into the approved funds in Portugal, right? Now, the third differences on these two programs, I guess, is very important for most of you to understand how long are you required to live in Australia as well as in Portugal. Yeah. For Australia, you are required to stay every year, 6 months in a year. After you have obtained the visa, you're required to spend 6 months in a year. As for Portugal, you are required to spend as little as 7 days in a year. Okay. Now, who can be included in the application? For Australia, it is the husband and the wife, together with the children if they are below 23 years old. As for Portugal, there's no age limit on the children, provided they maintain or continue to be your dependent. In other words, if they are still in the schooling, they are still studying, the children, even though they are past the age of 23 years old, they are allowed to be included in the application. Besides that, your parents and your parents-in-law, if they have reached the age of 66 and above, they can also be included in the application. Okay, now, after you have obtained the Australia citizen, where else can you live? For Australia, it is a door to New Zealand. In other words, the moment you become a PR in Australia, you can also obtain your PR in New Zealand, or when you are a citizen in New Zealand, likewise, you can also equally live in New Zealand. Okay, whereas it is more powerful for Portugal, because the moment you obtain a citizenship in Portugal, you can enjoy the rest of the 27 countries within the Schengen area. Okay, now, no English test for Portugal and no medical checkup for Portugal, whereas for Australia, most of the programs comes with the English requirements. In other words, either you sit for English test or you pay Australia government a fee to get a waiver. Okay, now, how do you maintain, your permanent resident status in Australia? When you get a PR in Australia, Australia government issue you with a 5 years PR status, of which you're required to stay 2 years over the 5 years periods. So that works out to be 730 days over a 5 years periods. Well, don't worry if you can't spend 2 out of the 5 years in Australia, because your PR still can be maintained via substantial ties in Australia. And these substantial ties includes such as you having a property there, such as you having a family member or relative there, or such as you having a business in Australia. So these are the factors, or so-called the ties, the Australian government will look into to determine whether or not they will maintain your PR, provided you are unable to spend the 2 years in Australia. Whereas for Portugal, it is very lenient. All you need to do is not to be away from Portugal consecutively more than 2 years. So in other words, you need to be in Portugal for at least 1 day in every 2 years when you become a PR. Okay, so this is very, very lenient. And when you become a PR, how soon can you become a citizen? For Australia, you can become a citizen 4 years later. Okay, because you might start off with a program that starts you with the temporary residence, which is a TR. So all you need is 2 years from a TR plus another 2 years as a PR in Australia for you to consider to apply to become a citizen of Australia. Whereas for Portugal, you are not required to go through the PR status. What you are required is to maintain your golden visa status for 5 years after you have applied through the Portugal Golden Visa. At the end of the 5 years, you could choose to become a PR, where most of the people choose to become a citizen, right? So it is 5 years after for you to become a citizen. Now, in terms of the processing time, Australia takes around 2 years, whereas for Portugal, it takes up to a maximum of 12 months. And often the times, it can be done in about 8 months' times for Portugal. So it is relatively quicker, for Portugal. Now, a little bit more detail. Now I'm going to share with you the pathway to get your residency through the business and investment programs for Australia. Now, like most of you might already be aware, Australia is the world top #1 migration destination. Australia has beat all other countries. It has beat UK, it has beat Canada, it has beat United States to become the world #1 migration destination over the last 4 years. Okay, and Australia has also been nominated with the country that has the most livable city in the world for the first top 10 city in the world. And Australia itself has 3 cities, which is Melbourne, which is Perth, which is Adelaide, as the world's most livable city. Let us look at, the business programs. Now, under the business pathway, if you are already a businessman, you are running your business now, you could explore 188A or 132A. Okay? Now, you are applying this visa or these business programs based upon your current business in Hong Kong or business anywhere. Take notes, you are not required to run or set up a business yet in Australia. It is not a requirement for you to run a business in Australia at this moment until your visa of 188A or 132A is approved. Okay? Australia is such a highly regulated country where the government doesn't require you to start with the investment. Okay? Rather, they are assessing you whether or not you qualify to apply for this visa. And how do they look into that? They look at your current business experience. For you to apply any one of these 2 visas, you must already be running the business for 2 years. Okay? You must hold your business for a minimum of 30% share ownership. Okay? If you don't have 30%, then that would disqualify you from applying for this visa. Okay? Unless you are running a public listed company. For public listed company, all you need is just the 10% share. Other than the public listed company, such as private limited, such as partnership, or such as sole proprietor, you will need a minimum of 30% or 100% if it is a sole proprietor. Okay. The Australian government also look at your current business turnover. The business that you're running now for 188A, you must already have 500,000 Aussie dollar of sales per annum. Whereas for 132A, you are required to have a turnover of 3 million per annum. Okay, so any amount that is lower than that, again, disqualify you from applying for this visa. All right. Australia also look into your financial capacity. For 188A, you will need to have 800,000 Aussie dollar. Whereas for 132A, you will need to have 1.5 million Aussie dollar. Okay. And when the visa is approved, when you're ready to go over to Australia, to live in Australia with your family, then you are expected to set up a business in Australia. Either you set up a business in Australia or you take over or you buy over an existing business in Australia, and that investment amount is ranging between 200,000 to 500,000 for 188A or 1 million to 2.5 million for 132A. Okay. Now, under 188A, it comes with the residency, which is 1 year out of the 2 years. In other words, you're required to spend minimum 6 months in Australia, and another 6 months you can be back to Hong Kong. All right. Whereas for 132A, because of the higher investment amount and it's more flexible, there isn't a minimum stay, but you must still demonstrate or show the Australian government how do you manage and supervise your business when you're not in Australia. Okay, so this is a requirement. So if you are back in Hong Kong, you must have email correspondence, you must have regular reports from the business in Australia that reports to you. You must show you are managing and supervising the business. Okay, so this is a quick summary about the business pathway for Australia. And let's look into investment pathway. Under this investment pathway, you are not required to run a business in Australia. Rather, under 188B, you are investing 1.5 million into the government bond, okay, over a period of 4 years. To apply for this visa, you must already have 2.25 million Aussie dollar. Yeah, 2.25 million Aussie dollar. You must already have an assets value worth that much. And out of the 2.25 million, you would need to transfer 1.5 million over to Australia into the government bonds. and you are getting an average of 1% of the returns, interest returns, because your money is kept in the fixed deposits. Yeah, we call this fixed income bond. And in that 4 years' time, one of you, between the husband and the wife, one of you must spend 2 years in Australia. Yeah. Whereas for 188C, it is a 5 million investment, and out of which you can invest into the private managed fund, and then 1 year you need to spend 40 days in a year, okay, for a period of 4 years as well. So that is the investment pathway. Now, because of the time constraint, this seminar, we focus on the business and investment migration. And I'm sure that some of you might be looking for non-business and investment programs, such as skilled migration programs, such as employer-sponsored programs, or such as, how to study in Australia and plan to become a PR. We will try, depending on the time, we will try to take some of the questions later, but do follow our seminar. We do have the next coming up seminar that is going to be focusing on more on the skill and study, in Australia to become a PR at the later stage. Yeah. Now, as a general, when you apply for a business or investment programs in Australia, the processing takes about approximately 2 years, which is about 20 months. So there are 3 important stages. First, like I said, to maintain our high successful records, we always go through the consultation and the review of the client's document before we take the clients before we invite the clients on board as our clients. And then if client passes stage 1, then we move on to the second stage to get a nomination from the respective state's government. So this is the states that you wanted to live in, okay? Once the state has accepted you, then we move on to lodge your visa with the federal immigration. Okay, so all this takes about 20 months. Now, so I will be sharing a short video clip with all of you here, just to share with you for those who is looking at, exploring a property and buying a property. And these are the projects that our business partner in Australia are promoting at the moment. Let's have a quick look.
As a Gold Coast local, I'm really excited to see my home city open up to the rest of the world. The Gold Coast is a naturally magnificent city, but by bringing people in from all over the globe, we can create a cultural richness. I'm really proud to work with people from Southeast Asia who want to migrate, study, and invest on the Gold Coast to help realise that vision. In our experience in selling property throughout Southeast Asia, we found that education, lifestyle, security and value were all the priorities driving the investment decisions of our clients. That's why we decided to partner with quality developers, immigration lawyers, and international education specialists.
Okay. So what you have, yes.
Discover Gold Coast's best kept secret. Set against the pristine backdrop of Robina's city parklands in the heart of Robina. Introducing View Terrace Homes. Inspiring new home designs by master developer Robina Group. All homes feature open plan living areas with timeless interior schemes. 3 spacious bedrooms, media room, NBN fibre connectivity, and 2 car spaces per home, most with double car garages. The centrepiece of the View master plan will be the stunning pool and barbecue area. a central oasis with several relaxation zones, from cosy cabanas to sun-drenched decking and grass. The gated grounds of View Terrace Homes will be looked after by a resident manager, protecting your investment. View Terrace Homes are just a stone's throw from Robina Town Centre, a one-stop shopping destination, and home to several dining precincts, including the kitchens. Seabus Super Stadium, Robina Medical Precinct, anchored by Robina Public Hospital and Robina Private Hospital, and set for a multi-million-dollar expansion by Australian Unity. The finest education establishments, including Bond University, All Saints Anglican School and Somerset College, and championship golf courses. All just 10 minutes drive from pristine beaches. The Robina area has impressive future growth projections. By 2050, the population will grow by more than 126%. The thriving workforce will double, with health sector jobs due to grow 195%. View Terrace Homes lies at the heart of thriving Robina, amongst its own parkland oasis. An exclusive lifestyle opportunity at the heart of Australia's most exciting city. Gold Coast City is experiencing a powerful momentum and growth, driven by the Australian desire for lifestyle. Home to the 2018 Commonwealth Games, Gold Coast offers a fusion of natural beauty, innovation and opportunity. Lifestyle discovered. View Terrace Homes are perfectly positioned to make the most of everything on offer and everything yet to come. Your urban oasis at the heart of the city.
So they are beautiful, and both in the city center as well as away from the city center. And if you have any one of you have any question regarding the property or regarding the Australia programs, do contact us. Now, after looking at all the beautiful things in Australia, I'm going to be taking you over to Portugal, and let's have a look at Portugal now. Now, Portugal has been seen as the most attractive entry point for you and your family member to gain your second home in Europe. And how do you do that? Let's have a look at this Portugal Golden Visa. So this visa was being designed and introduced by the Portuguese government in 2012. The idea is for non-EU citizens to gain the Golden Visa residency status over a period of 5 years. And after 5 years, you could choose to become a citizen. Yeah, and when you become a citizen, you have the access to the entire Europe. And meaning you and your family member can live, study, and work in any of the 27 countries. Now, let's have a look at the concept and a quick summary of these programs. The Portugal Golden Visa is an investment for residency programs. And this investment is required to be maintained over a period of 5 years. And after 5 years, should you choose to sell off your property or to dispose of your investment, you are okay to do that. It is okay for you to do so. Okay. Over the 5 years periods, each year, you are required to spend 7 days in Portugal. There's no mandatory residency, meaning to say you can be there just for holidays, 7 days in a year. Okay. At the end of the 5 years, you can then choose to become a permanent resident, or you could choose to become a citizen. Most of the people would choose the citizenship, for the purpose of the flexibility to live in the 27 countries. What is these programs for? How does these programs help you and your family member? First of all, this is a very straightforward programs that takes up to 12 months to process. Now, why is it 12 months? Because the country of Portugal Golden Visa programs has gained the popularity. It has the most application compared to all other countries in Europe. Okay, but most of the times, of course, that process, as I mentioned earlier, it can be also be processed within 12 months periods. You can bring the entire family members, including your parents and your in-law. Okay, in the 5 years periods, the first 5 years periods, you and your family member have the full rights to live and work and study in Portugal, enjoy the education benefits, and enjoy the healthcare benefits. Okay. And it comes with a very minimum residency stay. And you have the citizenship after the 5 years with the access to 27 countries. And it is very important for you to be aware that when you become a citizen or a golden visa holder in Portugal, you are not exposed to the worldwide tax income, meaning to say you do not need to disclose or report your overseas income outside Portugal unless you stay in Portugal for more than 183 days. Low tax regime. In Portugal, we have this inhabitant tax. What this is to encourage the golden visa holder who works in Portugal, who has an income in Portugal, and you might be able to get a tax exemption up to first 10 years after becoming the Portugal golden visa holder. Okay, so this has gained the popularity, and a lot of people has used the Portugal as an entry point, to access the rest of the country. And these are the list of the complete 27 countries that you and your family member can live after you have become a citizen. And how does the process work? The first 12 months is the processing time. And when you apply for this visa, golden visa, you need to choose one of you to become the principal applicants, because when you apply, you don't apply as whole family member, rather you're applying one person first, okay? And later on, you can include the rest of the family member in the application, all right? When the visa is approved, you get 2 years of the visa. In other words, 2 years of the golden visa status. And in that 2 years' time, you must spend 14 days over a period of 2 years, which work out to be 7 days in a year. Or you can travel once and spend or stay for 14 days. And that is enough to meet the requirements. At the end of the 24 months, which is the 2 years, the Portugal immigration will check to see if you still maintain your investment. They will check to see if you fulfill the 14 days of residency in order for them to issue you the 3rd and the 4th year of the visa. And that the same requirements maintained. At the end of the 4 years, they will review the same condition to issue you the 5th and the 6th years of the visa. So that is when the 5th year, you have to spend 7 days and still maintaining your investment. At the end of the 5 years, you will choose to apply to become a citizen or the PR, okay? So after the 5 years, it is not a requirement anymore for you to keep your investment. And this is as relatively as compared to other programs like Greece programs or the Spain programs. Some of those programs would require you to maintain your investment so long you want to keep your PR status, whereas Portugal doesn't require you to do so, okay? Relatively also a lower residency. Now, let's have a look at, typically what sort of property that you are spending for the amount of money of 280,000 or the 350,000. And I would like to share with you, example of the property in Portugal. Sorry. So these are the, what you have seen over there is some of the property. They are located in the city center. They are also located in the UNESCO area. And our business partner, will guide you on the investment options, on which one that suits you and how do you go about by choosing that. This is just a repeat. Now, this 3 slides is just a repeat of what we have went through earlier. And I think I'm going to skip it because of the time constraint. I will pass it back to Pian, on the Q&A. Pian, can I? Yes.
Thank you, Desmond. And those property is really nice.
Pian, it is a little bit soft though, Pian.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think those property is really nice, and I would love to move there immediately.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, for the participants who are still online with us, it would be grateful if you can type your questions in the Q&A box, and me and Desmond would definitely answer your questions. So, I saw that there is one of the participants who's asking for the Australia 188A. Is there any age limit for that?
Okay, yes. There is, Pian, there is an age limit. This applies to people below 55 years old in general. However, if you're above 55, we can seek an exemption, age waiver. So the states that are welcoming those who is above 55 years old in general is Western Australia, Perth. If you're above 55 years old, I will be able to get an exemption for you, through Western Australia government. But in order to get an exemption, what you need to do is to invest more, because it is based upon a bigger benefits, or a larger benefits that you are going to bring to Perth or to Western Australia State's government. So if you're above 55, talk to us, let us understand what intention you have, what business intention you have, and I will chat with the Australian government, write to the Australian government first to get an idea on what is the investment amount that they are expecting you to invest, and we will share that with you for you to aware what is the expectation from the state's government to give you the exemption. The oldest clients that I have ever done, to get an age waiver is a client with 68 years old. Yeah. So yes, they can.
Great. So because I saw the table earlier that for if we are going to migrate to Australia, actually we need to do some English tests as well. One of the participants would like to ask if is the English test very difficult and what level they need to achieve?
Okay. The English test for the business and investment migration in general is a lot more easier compared to the skill or professional migration programs. You are required, for those who is familiar with the IELTS test or IELTS test, you only need to score an average of 4.5, for the business or investment programs. However, if you cannot even pass 4.5, then you need to pay a fee to the Australian government, to get a waiver for the English test. You can do so by paying a fee. Now, what do you pay for? That fee basically buy you 500 hours of the English tutorial class when you are in Australia. You can go to the school to attend up to 500 hours of the class. It is not compulsory for you to attend the class, but it is compulsory for you to pay the fee. And the fee is 9,000 something Aussie dollar.
One of the participants would like to have a follow-up question. Should I lodge EOI after I passed the IELTS test?
Oh, no. To lodge the PN, just to remind you, you are very soft. So the participant was asking whether he can pass the IELTS test after lodging the EOI. Is that right?
He said after he passed the IELTS test, should he lodge EOI again?
For business programs or for skill programs?
I think let's talk about the business program first.
Okay. If it is a business programs, when you pass the IELTS, and it is not necessary for you to redo the EOI again, because if you are not claiming the point for business programs, if you are talking about just meeting the 4.5 and not claiming the point under business migration programs, then it doesn't has any implication on the IELTS. But if they are asking this for the skilled migration programs, they lodge the EOI and subsequently they pass an IELTS with a higher English test, then it is not necessary for them to redo the to redo the EOI. They need to go to the EOI and update the EOI with the latest test results. But when they update the test results, the EOI, the EOI sequence will be re-updated with the current dates. So it will be pushes to the back once the EOI is being updated.
Got it. One of the participants would like us to cover the skilled migration visa as well. But as we are talking about the business and investment migration program today, so I think we are going to have another webinar, just as Desmond mentioned before, very soon, and also we will also talk about the student visa as well. So, but I do think Desmond can also briefly to talk about, except the ways that we mentioned just now, the business and the investment way. Is there any other pathway to immigrate to Australia? Just give a very brief introduction, probably to our participant here today.
Sure. So for Australia, when you wanted to get a permanent residency in Australia, there are 5 major umbrella, or there are 5 major pathways. So except the first 2 that we talk about, business pathway and the investment pathway, there are 3 other pathways. The third pathway is the skilled migration programs. The general skill migration programs are people with the bachelor degree or the proper qualification, and they have the proper skill sets. Then they meet the requirements of the programs to apply under the general skill migration, and they must be below 45 years old. Okay. Now, so in general, in broad, these general skill migration programs also applies to those who go to study in Australia as a students. After they completed as a students, they are entitled to a visa called graduate visa. And that graduate visa, the purpose of the graduate visa is for them to have the rights to work in Australia. And after they have worked in Australia, they would then need to apply for one of the skill migration programs. Okay. So all of these comes under the general skill migration. Either you applied it when you are in Hong Kong because you already meet the requirements, because you have the skill and you have the qualification. So if you don't have, you could then plan to go and study in Australia, get the right qualification, and plan for, the skill migration to get a PR later. Yeah. The fourth pathway is the employer-sponsored. In other words, if there is a company in Australia looking at offering you a job and wanted to sponsor you, then you can explore the employer-sponsored options. The last options is the family stream. For example, if you have children who are getting the PR already in Australia, and you can look into these options as having your children to sponsor you. This is called parents' visa. But take notes, under the parents' visa, you must have at least 50% or majority of your children who are already a PR and living in Australia. Okay? Let's say you have 3 kids. You need to have 2 kids living in Australia, at least as a PR, in order for them to be able to sponsor you. Yeah. So these are the 5: business migration, investment migration, skill or students, migration, and employer sponsored, and last, family sponsored.
Got it. So there is one more thing we would like to know is what is the basic living expenses for immigrating to Australia?
Sure. Well, I think this is a very interesting question, and Australia in general are not a very cheap country to live. Yet, when it compares to Hong Kong, is considered as relatively very affordable to live in. So, if let's say you are a single person, without family member, the average monthly cost of living is 2,800 Aussie dollar. They pay for your food, transportation, and a place to live in. If it is a husband and a wife, 2 person, the cost of living per month is coming to about 4,000 a month for 2 person. Let's say a family of 2 children and husband and wife, 4 of you, then the average cost of living comes to 5,300 Aussie dollar a month.
Actually, it's quite, I don't think it's really that expensive comparing to the living expenses in Hong Kong.
It is very livable.
Yeah. I think comparing to Hong Kong, it is livable. Yes. So, I would like to ask for one more question that we received it online earlier. Basically, that registrant is almost 50 years old right now. And he or she is working in a local organization for many years. So would it be difficult for her to migrate to Australia? I think she can definitely choose the business and investment program, right?
Yeah, well, when we receive an inquiry with someone who is already 50 years old, that rule out the skill migration program, that also rule out the employer-sponsored programs. So if he is working in an organization, again, he's not running a business, that also rule out the business migration programs. That really left with the investment migration programs, which require 1.5 million of Aussie dollar. Yeah. And last options would be to wait for the children to get a PR and sponsor this person, at a later stage. It comes under the family sponsored.
So that means if he or she has a child, probably they get a visa in Australia, then probably they can apply to their parents to Australia as well. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. But when they sponsor the parents, take notes of what I mentioned earlier. They need to make sure that majority of the siblings or brother and sister must be living in Australia, at least 50% of majority. If let's say you and me, both of us are brother and sister, one of us must be a PR in Australia and living in Australia in order to sponsor our parents.
What if the children actually is a single child?
Yes, if it is a single child, then that particular children need to be a PR.
Okay. Got it. So I think that's all for the questions that we have for today. Is there any questions from the participant online right now? If you would like to ask more questions to Desmond.
I understand there are a few more questions that has posted to us earlier pertaining to the skill migration. And I think let us look into that, and then we perhaps, respond to them individually and separately. Yeah, because those are the questions that could be more specific to them individually. So we will get our consultant, to advise them, after this.
Sure. So if you would like us to arrange a 30-minute free consultation to you, just feel free to call this number or WhatsApp to this number, and our consultant will contact with you accordingly. So I think that's all for today. Thank you, Desmond, again for sharing with us, and hopefully we can have another webinar about the skilled visa and also for the rest very, very soon. See you all, guys. Thank you for joining us again today. Thank you.
Good night everyone.
Bye.
Bye.